Kinyomsrolai Prote Kampuchea. This translates to, I love Cambodia. Cambodia is one of the most beautiful countries in the entire world. I love Cambodia's peaceful atmosphere. I love its people who are all so welcoming. One of the most impressive initiatives I found is the Day of Reckoning initiative, which is happening now. It's a day of remembrance, akin to Memorial Day in the United States, where I come from. We are going to remember the 1-year anniversary of our recent conflict with our close territorial neighbor. And in this remembrance, it's important to recognize how this conflict has affected so many innocent lives, so many innocent people, and how it's negated development, economic partnership, and growth. And so for me, Day of Reckoning is also an important moment and somber moment. I love Cambodia's natural wonder, from Angkor Wat to the wilds of Ratanakiri, and I feel so happy. This love for Cambodia needs to be much more than words, right? We need to participate in Cambodian initiatives, such as the Walk for Peace, donating blood to our frontline soldiers who ensure that peace. Again, my love for Cambodia is in these initiatives. We must participate. I find it important. Good morning. My name is Frank Rodriguez. I'm a teacher at BELTEI International Schools in Phnom Penh, Cambodia. I love Cambodia for many reasons. I think Cambodia is the most beautiful country in the world. I've traveled pretty extensively, but I've never quite come to a place where the history and culture meet modernity, right? And we have the sleekest of cities and various technologies that even in my home country of the US were absent. But there's still a deep respect for the historical precedent. The Angkor Kingdom, which came before. You visit Angkor Wat, and I think it's hard to not marvel at just the human sacrifice it must have taken to create such a wonder. You know, it's not that I didn't love my life in the United States, and it's not that I didn't love my country, but I felt that I could put my skills as an educator to use somewhere else. In college, I studied Cambodian economics, and I found that it would be the best move for me and my family to come here and see if I could figure out what to do. And in truth, when I first came here, I had limited plans. I had a CV and a dream, and BELTEI's made that dream a reality for me. So again, I have a deep respect for the BELTEI institution and everything it's provided. I love Cambodian food. I love Cambodian music. I love seeing Cambodian people build their country. You know, when I first moved to Cambodia, it was about 6 years ago. Phnom Penh didn't look half as built as it does now, right? And even in the provinces, from Ratanakiri to Sihanoukville, where you're gonna find infinite wonder, there's just so much growth and there's so much optimism, right? Where we want to create something that the world will notice again. Because in the end, Cambodia is more than Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge, right? This 1 4-year segment is what all Western countries study, and then they move on from Cambodia. But Cambodia has fought over the last 40 years to create peace, stability, and generate economic growth. Considering the circumstances, it seemed like an impossible task. And I think any historian looking back at Cambodia's history would probably think it was a long shot, to say the least. But here I sit now and have a brighter future than I've ever had. And I see every day students graduating from BELTEI, students entering the job market, well-educated, bilingual, multilingual sometimes, and it's just incredible. So if you had asked someone 40 years ago in this country if we would be sitting here today having a conversation about Cambodia's general growth, the beauty of this country, they probably would have thought you were kidding. They probably would have thought you were playing a sick joke. But I live it every day. I live it every day. And yeah, it's just really cool and it's very moving. So if I could say anything to a Western audience, or even another Asian audience who might be interested in exploring Southeast Asia, man, Cambodia's got to be your first stop. First off, it's one of the oldest cultures in the region, and I think restart that. It is the oldest culture in the region. When I was in high school, we studied Asia, and the only thing they ever mentioned about Cambodia was Pol Pot and the genocide. That's it. They teach you about these 4 years from 1975 to 1979, and then they move on. And so, for whatever reason, it stuck with me. And this is going to sound silly, but I always remembered Cambodia's flag. I always felt like, oh, that's a really beautiful flag. How intricate, Angkor Wat, so delicately woven. And if you really take some time to look at it, the building itself is this brilliant line work. Anyway, heard about Pol Pot and Angkor Wat, and it never left me. It never really left me. And so when I reached university, I studied English for my undergraduate degree, and I have a bachelor's in English. But when I reached graduate studies, I just couldn't get away from Cambodia. So I actually traveled to Cambodia. So I enrolled in economics school at my university, and I studied Cambodian economics, and that's what brought me here. So for me, that was Cambodia. And it was just home for me from the first time I got here, and since I first heard of it, and that beautiful blue with that gorgeous image of Angkor Wat, it never left me. It never left. So yeah, that's why I'm here, and that's what drove all of my graduate studies. And I regret nothing. And as you can see, I've done very well. And a great deal of that is thanks to BELTEI and giving me opportunities. Cambodia is like the future, and I think that's what matters most. It's like Cambodia has a future, and I think that's something people forget. They'll come here for 2 weeks and they'll leave, or they'll just kind of approach things cynically and think, oh, well, there are other countries which have this or that. But Cambodia has all those things. And again, every year you see constant growth, constant ownership of development. And I think that's absent in a lot of the world, and again, I don't want to talk smack about other countries here, and obviously you have to edit this out. And I would say that there was tons of that in the United States, right around where I lived. So, I mean, it's easy, again, for people to lift their nose when they read these articles, but that's all just such nonsense, and it's so overblown, and I don't know. I'm sorry for the damage it's done to our tourism industry, but I hope that in some way you can look at me and know that my family is happy here. I'm happy here. And again, I've never been victimized. I've never felt segregated or alone here. And very quickly, when you get off that plane, you'll realize you're in a community with a great deal of solidarity, respect, but also a deeply welcoming attitude. Right? And yeah, that's something I think we should all aspire to. We should try to be that way. And we could probably learn a lot, especially in my country, the US. We could definitely learn a lot. That being said, my love for Cambodia goes far beyond words. I think it's important, especially as a foreigner living in another country that has given me and my family so much, to participate in civil activity, right? I try to make sure I get involved with Cambodian initiatives, particularly to support peace and to support development. For example, I had donated blood recently to our frontline soldiers who, tragically, some of them have lost their lives. But it was my role to give back to the soldiers who, again, have provided a home for me and provided a home for my family. That being said, I also think it's important to engage in smaller activities. For example, the peace walk, right? Or just generally making a video where I was able to demonstrate that my daughter and I, both American born, live happily here in Phnom Penh. And I was able to appeal for peace, and I felt like I was part of a family. And I think any foreigner who comes to Cambodia will probably be like pretty shocked at the solidarity that you're going to see just walking the streets. Cambodia operates as a family. The conflict that we sort of see in social structures, particularly like, in the West, they're sort of absent. Everyone is generally at peace. And beyond that, as a foreigner, you'll find that everyone's really quick to help you. So, I've always found that people were very quick to show me around, to help me negotiate pricing, to help me find proper accommodation, to get a ride, sometimes as simple as translating for me when I had to go to a shop. Everyone is happy to do that for you. So for me, Cambodia is just home, and I feel more home here than I felt in my own country. This home is because of BELTEI. BELTEI gave me an opportunity to teach English, and I've happily taught English here for the last 7 months. Beyond that, I moved to BELTEI University this October, which is exciting, and I'll get to explore higher education lecturing. One of the most impressive initiatives I found is the Day of Reckoning initiative, which is happening now. It's a day of remembrance, akin to Memorial Day in the United States, where I come from. We are going to remember the 1-year anniversary of our recent conflict with our close territorial neighbor. And in this remembrance, it's important to recognize how this conflict has affected so many innocent lives, so many innocent people, and how it's negated development, economic partnership, and growth. And so for me, Day of Reckoning is also an important moment and somber moment. Again, my love for Cambodia is in these initiatives. We must participate. I find it important, and also my daughter finds it important because she's able to relate to her new country, and she's able to explore how people feel and how she should feel. So I have a 5-year-old daughter. She turned 5 in Cambodia, but she spent a great deal of her youth in the United States, and she loves it here. She doesn't miss the US at all. It's really wonderful to see how far she's progressed. So she's learned 2 languages, Khmer, and is also continuing to learn English. And she's had exposure to Mandarin Chinese, which is something that we really didn't have the resources for in the United States. But it's been provided for here. So my daughter's future is significantly brighter after we've moved to Cambodia. And in the US, I found it a constant struggle to work with the limited resources the school provided, with daycare and various other issues. And here, it's like the school is a family, right? So you bring your daughter to school, she's educated at BELTEI, and it's like she's almost at a second home. And every day she comes home and teaches me new words that I never understood before. I've learned more Chinese from my daughter than I have in 36 years living in the United States. I remember my daughter's second day coming home from school. Her mother brought her to the door, and I'd come out, "Hi, honey, how's school?" And she said, "Jumrip suo, papa." And I was just blown away. And she's continued to develop, and she can now speak borderline fluent Khmer with her classmates who are also Cambodian. We've never dealt with any discrimination or any sort of like outsider sort of xenophobia. We've always been welcomed here as foreigners. And I think that that's the hugest difference between Cambodia and the United States, where I come from, is that Cambodia welcomes everyone. You can come here and be from anywhere, and you can still have a good time, you can still learn, and you can have an experience that is just irreplaceable. I'm telling you, walk up to Angkor Wat for the first time, and you will never forget it. That will be the moment that you recognize the greatness of humanity. Yeah, no, my daughter, she's awesome. And I think, you know, for all it's worth, that might set it apart too, because I think some people come and they're cynical. Oh, it's, you know, it's the developing world, it's the global south, but it's all nonsense. Every country is developing, the US and China included, right? So, you know, there's problems everywhere. My daughter, since she's come here, and I just talked to you guys in the room, she's done nothing but just grow and exceed, and she's so happy. Like, versus in the US, boy, it was very stressful for her. You know, and I think the big difference is BELTEI teachers really found a way to work with her. So they acknowledged that she was an American student who only spoke English, and then they found a way to still welcome her into the family and make sure that she was still able to play with the kids, communicate with the children, and capture some of the language in the process. And because the process was natural for her, as my daughter went through preschool and now kindergarten, she caught the language quickly. And I think that that's kind of what was missing in the United States for her, is that everything there is, at least in her education in Connecticut, you know, there was no real natural rhythm to things. And that's something that BELTEI and Cambodia do very well here. So, yeah, her experience is awesome. And again, I'm just talking to you guys more than I'm talking her, but yeah, she's done really well. And I think if she walked in here, you'd be like, wow, she can speak Khmer. She does better than me. So that's what I would say about my daughter and our move as a family here. Cambodian food is the best cuisine I've ever had. I've traveled to 4 different continents, so I can't say in the world, but certainly in most of the world. And I'll tell you what, if you're worried, oh, maybe I don't want to try exotic food, well, good news. There's probably a Burger King near your hotel. So you meet the modern with the historical context, and I think that that's important. You know, again, we have modern comfort here. Everything you could want, right? From fast, high-speed internet to various football stadiums with competitions going on almost all year long. But you can also, you know, kind of travel into the city and try a food that you'll never try anywhere else, right? And dance and enjoy. Cambodia is like the perfect tourist destination. And I think that that's kind of cool, right? You know, again, in the United States, I never felt that way, you know, and I lived next to New York, went to school in New York, and I felt that, you know, this is not that cool, because maybe it's just I was used to it. But boy, when I got here, and again, I've been here for 5 years, going on 6, boy, I've never gotten bored, ever. So I would consider that. And also, a small recommendation too, for anyone who might come here, go to Kaip. It's this tiny little province right near Kampot along the shore. But if you want to talk about serenity and beauty, boy, those beaches will take your breath away. So if you were asking Frank Rodriguez's recommendation for places that you could visit when you come to Cambodia, Phnom Penh has to be explored, no option. Siem Reap is a very important spot, Angkor Wat, but don't forget Rattanakkiri, Kampot, Kaip, Sihanoukville. All these places are so cool, and this is just the beginning. I could kind of talk all day about Cambodia's provinces. So, you know, as far as our border conflict is concerned, in truth, you know, it hasn't affected my life because in the end, Cambodia has the institutions that protect its citizens. Our soldiers are on the front line protecting our border, and the institutions in the cities are supporting all of us who've been affected by this. So every day I wake up, You know, I still wake up, eat breakfast, go to work, see my daughter, and we still live comfortably, but it's because so many Cambodians have made a sacrifice to maintain that comfort. So does it affect me? It hurts my heart to think that people have to sacrifice like this, but I also live very comfortably. So I think it's important that we recognize this sacrifice that our soldiers have made, but not only that, that our government institutions make every day to organize and fund defense of your border. A needless defense of your international border is a very expensive endeavor, and it takes a lot of planning, a lot of cohesion. And so for the government to be able to manage that and then still keep growing, keep developing, and keep life peaceful, that's a pretty intense undertaking. And so I feel like I'm ashamed to say that the border conflict hasn't affected my life directly, but that doesn't mean I don't think about it, and it doesn't mean that you shouldn't participate in initiatives that support those who are on the border and support those who have been affected, and especially in the border provinces. So Cambodia had hosted this massive March for Peace, and it was this really beautiful moment where Cambodians from all over the country flocked to the streets of the capital and walked in solidarity because we just wanted peace. It wasn't a demand to make any significant changes to anything. We just wanted to stop fighting. And I think that initiative was very moving to a lot of people around the world. It demonstrated Cambodian virtues, and it demonstrated a Cambodian initiative, the Walk for Peace. The Walk for Peace, so when I initially heard about it, I was very interested as a foreigner, and I was also watching the news, and I was deeply concerned about the incursions into Cambodian territory and the aggressiveness against Cambodia. And so I said, well, if there's anything we should do, it's to at least show up and demonstrate we want peace. So when I got there, I was relatively nervous because, again, I was a foreigner and I didn't know if it was my place to be there. I need not worry because, as always, I was welcomed, and it was really beautiful to be able to walk with thousands of people in the midst of the capital, so one of the busiest areas of the capital too, and just hope, just demonstrate, and pray for peace, just peace. We just want to stop fighting. So as a foreigner, again, it interested me, but it also called to me, and it was something I had to participate in. So I did go. I was at the Walk for Peace, and I wasn't the only foreigner there either. There are tons of foreigners there because Cambodia welcomes foreigners from everywhere, and this is our home. And we love it here, and so we also want peace, just as much as a native-born Cambodian would want peace. So that was my feeling on it generally. It was a deep interest, but also I felt responsible that I should at least show up and participate. And I did, and it was very moving for me. Thank you for listening to me today. I appreciate it. I want to thank BELTEI for the opportunity to speak and the opportunity to be here and actually work and make a difference. I want to thank Cambodia for welcoming my daughter and I to their country, to giving us a home that we've never had, and for giving us a chance to grow as people along with Cambodia. And I think that's really cool. That's so cool. And, I have the highest respect for His Excellency, Dr. Lee Chang. Thank you again. And I'm infinitely grateful in Cambodia. I've learned a lot, I've lived a lot, and I plan to keep growing here in this country.
BELTEI International University, the future of global leaders.